Good evening, everyone. Time for another silver update. Now, this is the 10-minute chart of the US dollar Japanese yen crossed over silver. We had an event last night. Who knows? What was the time here? Around 10 p.m. And you can see what happened. There was a huge run-up in the price of the dollar versus the yen. So this chart here, when this goes up like this, that means that the dollar is gaining value on the yen. And then, of course, silver is over here on the left-hand side, and it went dramatically down. Now, it didn't happen exactly at the same time. You can see that silver did a test of support, and then as soon as the continuation happened in the yen, silver went down. So it's the bankers playing the games that they've always played, and they're going to play them until it plays out. And honestly, with the way things are going now in the world, we don't know how this is going to play out. Maybe it's going to be a world war. Maybe it's going to be a stock market collapse. Maybe the central bankers are trying to cover everything up, and they'll blame it on ISIS or ISIL or some new false flag terror creation of the intelligence agencies. We just don't know what's going to happen, but we know that there is some type of crisis, and it's going to be the biggest crisis we've ever seen. And that's because in the last financial crisis that we had, nothing was solved. In fact, everything became much, much worse. Now, I often take you to the, well, before we do that, let me just jump over real quick over to crude oil, because crude oil has been acting really, really crazy lately. And you've probably seen that in the prices paid at the pump. So this is the 30-minute. So what kind of action is that? I mean, that's, you don't even see this type of stuff in the futures markets, and then where we are now. That's almost like silver was after the silver fix came out, just rigged, just fake, not even a real market. You can see dropping down, then spiking back up, and these are almost like island reversal candlesticks sitting here with nothing but air around them, between a price of 97 all the way down to 93, so $4. So big picture, again, the big picture seems to be that oil is rolling over. And what does that portend? Does that portend some big decline? But then again, we know that the Baltic dry index rates and the gas consumption rates and just general business health, the health of businesses in this country, all of these statistics are just really, really bad already. So what does it mean if oil breaks down? I can't even imagine what a deflationary scenario would look like at this point. But let's go over to the debt to the penny. That's something I always like to keep an eye on. And because I heard a commentator on the financial news yesterday talking about how we brought our debt down to $500 billion, and that, you know, that's an improvement because during the years of QE, etc., we were running so much more than that. But let's look at this debt. Now, what I do, again, I just pick a one-year period, which is 1 year from today's date, one year before that, and that's the 2nd of September last year. So you can see right there that the outstanding debt, the total debt, was $16.738 trillion. Now, and that was 8/30/2013. We come down to the latest figure, 17.749. So you can see that's a $1+ trillion difference between those numbers. And that's what you have to keep your eye on, because they never tell you the truth about the debt or the deficit or anything, because they have accountants or statisticians who lie and massage numbers, but this number can't be lied about, really. It can't be massaged. I guess at some point they could just stop reporting it. But you can see there's a $1 trillion increase in the debt. Now, I pointed out in previous videos that the amount of tax revenue that we have is just paying for the transfer payments. There's literally not a penny left for funding of government. It's all just transfer payments. And this bears this out. This is Jeff Berwick, the dollar vigilante, so I'm not the only person saying these things. And you can see this. Will this be the last Labor Day workers can afford to escape the United States? And he gives this amazing pie chart, and read a little bit of this. Labor Day, a government-created day on which those people who work, read producers, are supposedly celebrated by the people who don't, government and welfare recipients. Pat yourselves on the back, entrepreneurs. The parasites love you, as I've written here in the Dollar Vigilante TDV blog. Approximately 65 million U.S. citizens work. The rest receive various forms of welfare. Now look at this pie chart. This is absolutely, it's in the shape of a bomb. This is absolutely astounding. You have 107 million on welfare. You have 55 million on Social Security. You have 47 million on Medicare, and you have 40 million on who work for the government. So according to these figures, now again, I'm going to explain to you why this isn't completely accurate, but just on the face of it, you're talking about 311 million Americans, and 252 million of them are receiving transfer payments from the government. Now, you can't say that that's absolutely true, because it's possible, of course, people on Social Security getting Medicare, people on welfare might be getting Social Security. These can cross over each other, and you can have one person in both categories. So the number's probably not that high. Nevertheless, you can see how bad it is, how close we are to approaching that tipping point. Now, if you haven't heard, the story that came out was about the increase in, well, we've heard recently the increase in the number of people who are announcing their U.S. citizenship. And we don't even know if these are accurate numbers, but we know the numbers they're reporting are growing very, very quickly. But what was interesting is that the other day, and he gives a video of someone who renounced or who quit on air and says he's done, he's leaving. But the interesting thing is that they are now increasing the fee to renounce your citizenship and leave the country and just be done with the United States. So the producers who want to go galt, they want to leave, they don't want anything to do with the United States anymore, and they certainly don't want to live in a country that allows them to pursue their interests by running businesses. They don't want to have to pay taxes to the country they're in, as well as pay taxes to the United States, which is the only country in the entire world that forces you to pay taxes even though you don't receive any benefits of those taxes. So you can see here, tax compliance and a payment of $450, not to mention many lawyer fees, assuring tax compliance and filing various paperwork, is no longer enough to get out. Now, to leave officially America, a person will have to cough up $2,350 just to beg for permission to leave. This trend will only worsen. The State Department says it needs to recuperate costs for increased demand, apparently instituting police state and bankrupting a citizenry results in a bit of extra paperwork as people flee. So this is what we predicted for a very, very long time. People like Simon Black, people like Jeff Berwick, people like many others who have talked about how this trend is only going to worsen. A lot of these people are in the business of helping you get a second passport, helping you get out of the country, helping you set up a foreign LLC, helping you do these things to get your wealth out of this country before things completely collapse. And that isn't too far away. Now, the last story I want to show you is really not a very big story on the mainstream media. In fact, the ones that I saw didn't even have any comments on them. It was just something that I heard on Patriot Radio, and it was mentioned. I had to search for the longest time to find this story. But this is a story about LA City Council seeking to exit from Dexia BNY Mellon swaps. So this is a swap deal that was signed by the LA City Council, and I'm not going to read the whole story, but basically they're trying to exit this swap deal. They're asking for their money back. So let's read real quick here. The Los Angeles City Council is threatening to stop doing business with Bank of New York Mellon and Dexia SA if they refuse to renegotiate money-losing interest rate swaps. In a 14-0 vote yesterday, the council asked BNY Mellon, the world's largest custody bank, and I've covered before how they're involved in the silver SLV, and Dexia to return $65 million in what lawmakers called unfair profits and fees paid since 2008 on debt for sewer work. Okay, so here's the issue. Keep this straight in your mind. The City Council is accusing BNY Mellon and Dexia of cheating them or taking unfair profits for fees paid since 2008 on debt for sewer work. So let's get down to the nitty-gritty of what this is really about. The subject of the council's vote was part of $151 million in interest rate swaps associated with a portion of $281 million in wastewater system revenue bonds. Los Angeles sold $316 million in bonds in 2006 to refinance debt issued in 1998 for work on the municipal wastewater system. The city refinanced the debts again last year, reducing the amount by half, according to bond documents. Because of a decline in interest rates since 2006, the swaps had a negative fair value of $24.7 million as of June 2013, city budget documents show. Exiting the contracts would cost from $23.5 million to $25.7 million in termination fees, according to a June analysis by a public resource advisory group for Miguel Santana, city administrative officer. Santana advised the council against terminating the swaps in a May memo, saying the financing had saved the city about $21 million. So this is just so you can understand what happened here. What happened is that the city needed to roll over some debt that they had accumulated for their wastewater system that they had done work on. Now, what really strikes you as strange here, first of all, is that it's 1988 work, okay? The work that these bonds, the original debt that was incurred by the city, was incurred for 1988 work. Now, you can see that they're refinancing the debt in 2006. That's almost 20 years later, and the city still owes money for work that was done in 1988. For all we know, the wastewater system needs to be redone again. We don't know how long those repairs last or whatever they did. So that's the first thing to notice. Now, the next thing is that they got this swap deal done because basically Dexia and BNY Mellon offered them a derivative contract. And basically what that derivative contract said was that not only are we going to refinance your bonds, but what we're going to do is we're going to sell you a derivative. And what that derivative does is it guarantees that interest rates won't go up. In fact, if interest rates go up, we will pay you money. But if interest rates go down, you owe us money. So what happened was that because of the Federal Reserve, because of them pegging interest rates at near zero, interest rates have never gone up. And that's not something that really has a precedent in history. So it was actually a fairly reasonable deal for them to do, considering that interest rates were so low. It's possible that they could have gone up from there, but they never did, because the Federal Reserve is determined to destroy the entire world by pegging interest rates at zero. So now we have the city council, who irresponsibly, obviously, who still has debt in 2006 incurred for work from 1998. Now they're trying to renege. So this is something that we've seen in Argentina. This is something that we're going to see all over the world, because this is all of this stuff is just hiding. You can see 4 comments from August 13th. No one even cares. But this is stuff that's all hiding under the surface, waiting to explode. And that's all of the debt that no one can pay, and all of the fraud. And so, as I said before, nothing has improved since 2008. In fact, things have gotten much, much worse. We're running a $1 trillion a year budget deficit. The bankers know this is the case, that nothing has improved. That is why they continually pound the precious metals down, because when this house of cards collapses, that's going to be the only thing that has any value at all. And we'll talk to you next time.